Now let's move to the second issue, the hydrogen part. How many of you know periodic table? What is a periodic table? Is it about your timetable? Okay, which subject am I talking about? How many of you have no clue what I'm talking about? Chemistry. Periodic table. Why are we discussing hydrogen? Okay, if it is the first element in the periodic table, why should we discuss it? Okay. I'll give you a clue. I'll take you in the direction. I don't want to make this a very technical class right from day one when you are trying to understand these topics. It should be fun, right? How many of you came here by walking? How many of you came in your own vehicles? So you're all contributing to global warming. I also contributed. I'm guilty. Every time you use a vehicle, as of today, most of the times, the vehicular emissions are polluting our earth. What if you have a fuel that doesn't do it? What if the fuel that you're using is friendly to the environment? Hydrogen is one such gas. The reason why we are actually interested in knowing about hydrogen is not because we are all chemistry enthusiasts or we are fascinated by periodic table. And don't worry if you are not from a science background. It's not important. We are all here to become problem solvers. The problem that we are addressing today is the pollution problem, the climate change problem, and the fuel that can help us. In this bid to make our environment very friendly, we have to move towards sustainable fuels. What do you mean by sustainable fuel? A fuel, when used today, should not cause a disturbance to the future generations. Hydrogen fuel is one such fuel. Okay? Because the byproducts that it produces is not harmful. Are we directly putting hydrogen gas into our vehicles? No. We will be using them as fuel cells. Back to the technology later, but let's understand. At this point of time, the twin goals associated with this topic is India wants to become an economy where the net contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions becomes zero. That is, if you are emitting some X units of greenhouse gases, whatever activities we do should absorb it back. And the timeline for this is 2070. By 2070, we should become a net zero economy. Our economic growth today is linked to our ability to consume energy. So the context of this article is to make that science fiction today. It's like science fiction because we are yet to see an economy which is net zero, and research on this domain will make it a reality. Hydrogen is considered to be that. But the way we are looking at hydrogen till now is through manufacturing hydrogen, not by capturing the naturally available hydrogen. There are two ways to produce hydrogen. There is this concept of grey hydrogen. There is this concept of green hydrogen. Grey hydrogen is that hydrogen which is produced by using fossil fuels. What is the point of producing it then? The end objective is a clean fuel. Ironically, we are adding greenhouse gas emissions in the process. So we do not want a grey hydrogen. And then there is a second variety called green hydrogen. Is it green in color? No. We are giving a color code to the process of production. If the production process uses renewable energy like solar, wind power in the production of green hydrogen, that is called green hydrogen. This is the industrial way or the manufacturing way of producing hydrogen, then using it as a fuel cell. How about we tap into naturally available hydrogen? That is the agenda of this article. See, we are always looking at technocratic solutions, which is very expensive. Always have this line of thinking that we want to encourage nature-based solutions. See, how to analyze any issue with respect to this energy. First of all, you need to understand energy transition. What do you mean by energy transition? How many of you understand this? That is law of conservation of energy. Energy transition means we are having right now a economy based on fossil fuels. So we want to move away from that. We want to make a transition from a fossil fuel based economy to a renewable energy based economy. Why? Because we want to protect our climate. We want to make our cities, country clean and green. And we are also contributing to the climate cause of the globe. So, energy transition in India is a non-negotiable need of this country right now. So, all the articles on energy resources will be around this theme of energy transition. What all can we do in terms of technology, in terms of policy, in terms of economy, in terms of society, how to bring people together, how to make them accept these newer forms. Because we're all used to petrol bike. E-bikes were existing for almost more than a decade now. But why is it that we are seeing more of them today? Because it took time for technology to evolve, to gain credibility and gain the trust of the consumer. And to gain the trust, there was a lot of background work done by the government. They supported them through incentives. A subsidy will be given to the consumer through a scheme called FAME. Let's say if the vehicle costs you 1 lakh, government gave a subsidy of 20,000 and brought down the cost to 80,000 to encourage the battery vehicles. So energy transition is the need. Why do we need that? Because if you take a look at India's economy, there is a concept called current account deficit. Simply put, if we are importing more and exporting less, it will create a current account deficit. More of this will be explained in the economy class. If this current account deficit is not reduced, it will destabilize Indian rupee. And as a result, things will be expensive in our own country. 85% of our energy needs today are met through imports. If we are not able to meet our energy needs, that is, we are importing crude oil, we will perpetually be dependent on that. We want to move away from that. We don't want that to happen. What if the country from which we are importing oil says, hey, do this as I'm asking you, otherwise I'll stop giving you oil. It's like blackmail, right? We don't have any autonomy there. To bring forward that strategic autonomy, we need to move towards fuels which are not fossilized or renewable sources. What are the clean alternatives? See, this is the end objective. Why strategic autonomy? What are the clean alternatives? In one of those clean alternatives, you have biogas, you have many other alternatives, biofuels. Hydrogen is one such. Do we have any resource innovation there? That is one more lens through which you can use. Then, our institutions, are they ready for this? What do you mean by readiness? See, you might create a battery vehicle, and I want to go from Hyderabad to Mumbai, and somewhere in the middle of that highway, you realize that your battery is dead. You don't have a charging station. You can't refuel it with petrol. Do you think the consumer will be ready to buy such cars? So you need a supportive ecosystem, right? The reason why we are happily buying petrol vehicles is because there is a standardized mechanism across the country that I will be producing this fuel. You can use it across the country anywhere. And the car will not be damaged. So I'm happily buying that car. Even if it is expensive, I would pay for that because it is at least reliable. So our institutions are ready for that change or not. And finally, global alignment. Why do we need a global alignment? See, global alignment can mean many things. Firstly, India has certain commitment to gain some stance, some strategic autonomy. We might project ourselves as the leader of the global south. What is this word global south meaning? All the developing nations in the southern hemisphere. You will see most of the developing nations in the some south of equator. If India wants to become the representative of the global south, the voice of the global south, we need to have that soft power, that is some bargaining power. This energy transition can facilitate that. That is one more thing. If you take a look at the economic side, if we align with the global standards, let's say for example, Maruti cars. If you are an automobile enthusiast, you would notice on social media that they're continuously trolled because they are as good as tin cans. Just hit them with your hand, there will be a dent. They used to fail all global level, forget global level, even Indian level crash testing because they wanted to be light, efficient, and easy on the pockets of the consumer. Maruti, ironically, is one of the highest selling cars in this country, and there is absolutely no concern for safety because Indian consumer historically refused to pay a bit more. So, cost cutting mechanisms, they did not, take that factor of cost. So, to export this across the world, it will become very difficult because it will not be accepted. Similarly, if our production processes are not conducive for meeting the destination countries' environmental standards, even then it will be rejected. So, for all these reasons, whenever you look at an energy policy, it can be hydrogen, it can be ethanol, it can be solar, it can be wind, anything. It should be viewed from this framework. What is India's need? What are the alternatives available? How will it ensure strategic autonomy? Are our institutions ready? This is the practical way of looking at any issue. Clear? Now that we understood it, the entire article will become a breeze. You can quickly glance through. Why hydrogen? Because India has two goals: net zero by 2070 and energy independence by 2047. Energy independence. In newspaper articles, you will see energy Atmanirbharta. Please use these keywords in your answers, otherwise you will not get marks. Energy Atmanirbharta by 2047. So instead of going for industrial hydrogen, we can tap into naturally available hydrogen, which is much more effective and scalable. Okay? Yeah. What is India's potential? What do you mean by potential? How many of you have potential for UPSC? Everyone. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seated here. If you don't think you have potential, none of them will dare to come and sit here. Either you or people around you must have thought that you have this potential, so you should give it a try. There is a possibility of tapping into that potential and make it a reality. Similarly, when we say what is the potential of a certain resource in this country, we're basically trying to quantify how much of it is available in our country. According to the sources, it is roughly around 3.47 million tons. Remember, UPSC does not expect you to remember these random numbers. So whenever you are trying to mug up these numbers, please remember this, because what if you forgot and wrote 34.7 million tons? It is okay to not write facts like this, but it is definitely not okay to write wrong facts. Don't get unnecessary attention. Where will you find them? One, Deccan Plateau, and two, in regions like Andaman and Nicobar. They are trapped within the geology. See, read this point. If true, this reserve could offset the need to manufacture hydrogen via electrolysis. How many of you know electrolysis? 8th standard physics. What is electrolysis? What is the material on which electrolysis is done? Hydrogen. What is the raw material? Electrolysis of what? Water? Is it water? H2O. H2O. If you bring that hydrogen, what is the byproduct? What is left? So is this environmentally sustainable or not? It's a good thing. Then why are we saying that we don't have to do electrolysis? Because it's expensive. To produce industrial level equipment, you should, as a policymaker, always think, is it technologically viable, economically feasible, administratively possible? 3 lens. Be very practical in your thought. Just because it's science, like we all know that innovative gadgets, like let's say for example, if you're having a VR headset, or to that matter, an Apple Watch, it can capture health data. Is it okay to say we will universalize Apple Watches to our Indian population and track? It's very expensive. And it's not the best solution either. So always have this practical bent of mind. The biggest hurdle for commercially scaling up this hydrogen is the need for electrolyzers. The initial cost for setting up these hydrogen plants is so high that it becomes virtually impossible to economically make them profitable at this point. So initial cost of investment is so high. So we would rather tap into naturally available hydrogen reserves. What are the challenges? See, if you want to write down the challenges, you shouldn't just talk about the technical measures. All the practical problems should be visible in your answers. That is what makes you a policy maker. You are not a science student. You are not an environment student. You are not an art student. You are a combination of all of this. That is what makes you a generalist and administrator. So the challenges can be technical, geological, and logistical. So technically speaking, it's reactive. So you need a storage equipment which is, stopping the hydrogen from reacting. Then you have this geological concerns where they're tapped into deep rocks. So we need to carry out some initial surveys. Zonation should happen. Like wherever this hydrogen is trapped, they should be categorized into zones, and each zone should be handled in a different way. Next is the logistical concern. Even if you're tapping into those gases, right now, the specifications for that are for natural gas, not for hydrogen gas. So there is a possibility that nitrogen gas can react with the current infrastructure, like if you have a metal, for example, which need not react with the natural gas, but hydrogen gas can react with that. So we need to make a separate infrastructure for that. So what do you mean by this idea of capex? What is capex? It is short form for capital expenditure. What is the difference between a capital expenditure and a current expenditure? Any guess? What do you mean by capital in economics? It's like an investment. It's like something that generates return in the long term. So when you are inculcating an expenditure on capital, it is supposed to give some returns in the long run. So anything that builds infrastructure is capex. And this cost is very huge, which is like a great barrier. See, any private company can come forward and build this metro, Hyderabad metro, for that reason. If I'm not wrong, I don't remember the exact numbers. It costed us somewhere around 15 to 17,000 crores for the first phase. That started way back in 2010 or something, 2009 or 2010. And it was launched 7 years later. So you have to keep on investing, pumping money. When do you think the investor will get the return? Immediately? No, right. Where will they mobilize all that money from? They have to take from finances, take loans from banks. What if the project fails? The company goes into debt. So a lot of companies hesitate to take that risk, because if the government changes and if the government harasses the private people, they always have this concern. So public-private partnerships, one of the main challenges is this policy stability. We need a stable policy that even if the government changes, we are not going to be in a risk. Even for hydrogen exploration, we need that. See, this issue or this methodology of thinking is not just relevant for hydrogen alone. We are trying to institutionalize a thought framework which can be applied across any issue. I want you to learn the ability to articulate any article under this frameworks. It's not just about this one article alone. Okay? How can India kickstart the process? Like, you have seen the problem. The opposite of the problem becomes the solution. For example, there is this National Hydrogen Mission, which right now focuses on industrial manufacturing. So what if we include natural hydrogen in that? It will be a policy, right? And it will give some clarity on how to go about it. And under that, if we can create a submission by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas combined together. This is for, why are we including this ministry? Why are we bringing two ministries together? See, we are talking about piped gas. Who is handling that right now? We are talking about renewable energy because hydrogen is a renewable source. So, interministerial coordination. You will see this keyword in multiple articles. Interministerial coordination is necessary. So, this is the policy side. Whatever the government can do. From science, what can happen? There is something called National Action Plan on Climate Change. Okay? National level action plan on dealing with climate change actually. It is not to cause climate change, but to deal with the climate change. One of the mission is solar mission. This article brings a very tiny factoid. There is one tool called SRRA tool. This is basically uh, an assessment tool of how solar can be a potential solution for our energy needs. We are trying to create similar policy tool for hydrogen also. The article suggests that we should create. And then you have this NGRI, ONGC, all this PSUs and all the government research organizations which can help us in this exploration. We have seen the policy side, we have seen the science side, now the infrastructure. So we have to modify our existing gas pipelines. We have to start it at a very, see, whenever you see this pilot, the word pilot here means start small. Pick a small area where it is possible, implement the problem there, see if that solution works for that problem, and then scale up. Otherwise, what will happen? You will plan in a very big way, start implementing everywhere, and then you realize that there are some problems. An entire country and the entire expenditure goes for a toss. So, any new project will always have this pilot. And then you have a US model. Okay, they have a separate department there for handling this kind of thing. So, this model can be used. So, you can pick up this and write in your answers. Questions like this will rarely be asked in prelims, but quoting this best case studies, etc., in your mains will add a lot of value. Okay, so this is the solution. So, what have we learned today? A problem will have multiple dimensions, just like how we have seen here, and the solution should also present those multiple dimensions. So, logistical problem, logistical solution, policy problem, policy solution, infrastructure problem, infrastructure solution. Your answer should be visible in this segmented, clear, coherent manner. Newspapers will not give you articles arranged like this. You will have to arrange them according to your understanding. If you understand, you will make it very clear. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. At least did you get a perspective now? Now you can go and read the articles after understanding this class. It will make a lot of sense.